All right, people, once again, we are on step 40. You are welcome to work ahead, and you are welcome to stay with me. There are some of you who need to go back and watch some of the previous steps from the previous 3 days of this. Any of those are fine, but I am going to do without having you read through one of the instructions. We've already read through instruction 40, so I'm going to remind you how to do this. And we're using the formula from number 38 here, and we're adjusting that for the revenue category. So if we click up here on our revenue category for hitting lessons, we see that we were pulling from E4, and we're pulling from E4 because on the sales worksheet, our total sales for hitting lessons was in E4. And for pitching lessons, we changed our formula to be E5 because our total revenue on the sales worksheet for pitching lessons was in E5. So instead of E5 on this next formula, what do you think we're going to put? E6. You got it. People are tracking. So I like to enter them in without copying and pasting just because usually something goes wrong when I copy and paste formulas. So sales worksheet, and I'm just pulling this from number 38 and adjusting for my category. So I'm going to put in E6 this time, and I'm going to multiply that times, times so I'm pulling from B4 again because I'm going to first figure out what my revenue for catching lessons is for January. So remember, I'm multiplying the total sales for catching lessons, that's from my sales worksheet, times B4, which is the percentage of those sales I'll do in January. And again, I get the same number because I had the same annual sales for both pitching and catching lessons. And then I would pull that number over, all the way over. So I'm not going to record all of it, but I'm going to adjust my formula. I'll show you this next one just so you make sure you get the hang of it. I'm going to use that same formula except instead of E6, fielding lessons is in E7. Oops, that's already wrong. It's pulling from the wrong E7. There it is, and I would drag that over just like I did previously. And I'm going to do the same thing for my equipment. So here is what my budget looks like at the conclusion of number 40. So I figured out my revenue for each category. I know what I'm going to make every month and total. And that all is on the same page. It all fit on one page of the budget worksheet. So again, that is number 40 completed. All right, people, we are at different phases, so what I'm saying right now might just be for the benefit of the screencast. But if you're sticking with me, I'm going to move on to number 41. So I'm going to show you the steps in number 41. So here's my first formula for number 41. So we'll enter the formula in first, and then we'll talk about what it means. that doesn't look right because it's not highlighting what I want it to highlight, and I know why. There we go. Okay. There's my cost of sales. Good, so in that formula we typed G4 rather than E4 because in the sales worksheet, G4 is the total cost it would take to provide hitting lessons. So that's basically the price I'm paying to pay an employee to give those lessons, plus the cost of my equipment to give the lesson. So I just figured it would be about $20 per lesson. So pulling from the G column here, so as we continue to enter in these formulas here, we're just going to increase to G5, G6, G7, and G8. And remember, the way I complete the cost of sales for hitting lessons is I pull that formula, I drag it across all the way to total. And I'm going to do the same thing for each of my categories. Remember, instead of G4, like it says in number 41 for hitting lessons, for this one I'm going to type in G5 because my total cost for pitching lessons is in G5 of the sales worksheet. So I'm going to pause it and type in those formulas, but I'm basically copying this formula right here, but I'm increasing 1 for this number for each of my categories. So once your step 41 and 42 and 43 are finished, this is essentially what your sales worksheet, budget sheet would look like, where you have your monthly revenue and cost of sales totals and your revenue totals. So remember, the way I did that is I just increased this formula by 1 for this number in each one. So these are the correct formulas. In case you're having some trouble, you can go ahead and double check. Again, most common causes for a bad formula: forgetting the equals sign, putting up no parentheses or a double parentheses instead of a single, or just simply mistyping one of your numbers. So, or you could have named the sheet wrong. Like if I didn't put a space here, it wouldn't work. Or if I didn't put a capital letter here, it wouldn't work. Or if I spelled it wrong, it would not work. So those are some things to check out. Some of you are following along right with this. So we're going to enter in a formula. And we are going to enter in a formula next to total revenue. So this is the cell we want to be in. For me, it's B23. I'm guessing it's something similar for each of you. But I'm in cell B23, and I want to know my total revenue for that month. And so I'm going to add it up using Excel. I'm going to type in the formula equals. And then I'm going to start clicking on my total revenue boxes. So B7, for me, plus, oops, I did equals because I forgot a shift, plus B10, so now that's my pitching lessons total revenue, plus my catching lessons, there they are, plus my fielding lessons total, and it's kind of nice, they stay highlighted so I know I'm adding up the correct thing, plus my equipment total. So I make sure that I have all my revenue categories added and there's plus in between, and then I'm going to press enter. And there's my total revenue for the month of January. And I'm going to take that, and Excel is smart enough to know that I want to switch to C for this category, and so on and so forth, moving all the way through. So now I know that in my best month, which I already know is December, because that's the only one I put as 12%, that I'm going to be making this much revenue. That's not how much I'm profiting, but how much my company is bringing in. And my total for the year is this right here. So we're going to do something very similar for expenses, or cost of sales. So the amount of money it takes to make those products. So you probably can already imagine how I'm going to add those up. It's the number right below the revenue. So B8 plus B11 plus B14 plus B17 plus B20, and then I'm going to drag that over so it looks like that. All right, moving relatively quickly, here is what you would do for number 48. Number 48 is, it says that you should enter a formula. Total revenue minus cost of sales, which is right, but this is how you would do it. Because we're figuring it out for January here, I know that column B is January all the way, equals total revenue minus cost of sales, enter. And do I want my gross revenue to be positive or negative?
Positive.
Yes. Almost a rhetorical question, but of course I want that to be positive, otherwise I'm losing money. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to see for each month, am I making money? Now I know because I set up my expenses to be that way. But I know that my gross is $93,000 if I keep my costs right there. Number 50 says that we need to type expense categories, and I'm just going to suggest 3 for the sake of simplicity, because all of your businesses would need at least 3 things that weren't related to making products directly that would have to happen for your company to exist. Number 1, you're going to need to have either rent or some kind of a business mortgage. So you're going to need to pay for a place to dwell, I think, unless you're working out of your house. So you're going to need to pay rent. You're going to need to pay utilities. Does anybody know what that means, to pay utilities? That's right. Heating, cooling, so electric, gas, water, sewer, trash removal. You need that stuff. And then let's just say that you also are going to make sure that there's upkeep on your building. You don't want it to go to ruin. You might be doing it yourself, but you got to have some kind of upkeep. So rent, utilities, and upkeep. So here are some sample prices. I'm going to say my rent, my mortgage, and I think this is way low, is going to be about $1,500. Remember, I've already formatted to dollars, so all those should work out just fine. My utilities, I'm going to say $500. To upkeep my warehouse space, in my utilities, there's a cleaning fee, so I'm paying a cleaner there, but still on my batting cages, knots get tied, and somebody's got to take those out. And my employees will do some of that, but I'm going to need to do repairs as well on my own equipment for upkeep. So I'm going to say upkeep of $250 per month. Okay? So there's my 3 different categories. I'm going to delete some extra rows because we're going to take it easy on the expenses. So I'm just going to delete 2 rows. I'm going to leave 1 because I like my sheet to be clear. So I'm just right-clicking, choosing delete, and then choosing entire row. And I'm getting rid of those. All right. And for number 52, I'm just going to assume that every month is the same. So I'm going to do this for all of my expenses. So I'm going to do that same thing for each of them. So I have now copied all of my expenses for every month, and now I'm going to auto sum them. So I'm up to number 53. I'm going to run out of time here, but if I just auto sum, it already knows what I want to do, and I press enter. Auto sum and press enter.